Tom, how you doing? This is Oscar.
Hi, Oscar. Nice to talk to you again.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. So we're going to get started. We have a couple of organizations on the line. And before I let them introduce themselves, I wanted to thank you for your time. We spoke briefly on Monday. We saw an article that talked about parent engagement in Milwaukee, and we noticed the role that your organization was playing in partnership with the Milwaukee Public Schools, and we were very interested in wanting to learn more about your organization and your experience on being able to partner with the district in utilizing the stimulus funds. So gave you a call, then I really appreciate your time, and we set up this quick call to be able to learn a little bit more from your experience. We can get started by letting some of the organizations introduce themselves. If you can just tell us your name, the organization that you work with, and where you're located. That would be great. And please jump in. Well, need someone to volunteer.
This is Zerfa from Lao Family Community of Stockton, based in Stockton, California.
This is Susan Lee. I'm also from Love Family Community of Stockton in Stockton.
Hello, Tom. My name is Tong Tao. I'm with Federal Center for New Americans in Fresno, California.
And as I mentioned, my name is Araceli Simeon Luna, and I work with MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund.
In what city?
In what city? In Los Angeles.
Oh, L.A.
Great. Anybody else? Well, we can start the conversation, and as people are coming in, they'll be able to introduce themselves. So, Tom, again, thank you so much for your time. I thought that a good idea would be to start, if you can tell us a little bit about the background of your organization.
Sure. I'm the executive director of COA Youth and Family Centers, which was originally in 1906, 103 years ago, founded as the Children's Outing Association. It was part of the very first settlement house created in the state of Wisconsin. Settlement houses were developed in the early 1900s as part of the wave of immigration that came from Eastern Europe to help families who were living in tenements with no job skills, couldn't speak the language, had no hot water, nothing, to give them the tools to become self-sufficient. And the settlement house philosophy really deals not with individual problems, one in isolation from the other, but taking a holistic approach to the entire family. The settlement house looked at the children of these families who had no vision of the world outside of their tenement and ghetto, and said they created a division called the Children's Outing Association, and in 1906 we took the first 8 kids to camp. Today we send more low-income kids to camp on scholarship than anybody in the state of Wisconsin. We have our own camp in central Wisconsin, 206 acres, and we run year-round programs there. But as the decades went by, the settlement house disappeared. But by the 60s, of course, the problems of the city had not disappeared, and so the Children's Outing Association became the full-scale settlement house and created that whole range of programs, which then became COA Youth and Family Centers. We offer programs in 5 basic areas. Early child education. We have a nationally accredited early child education center. The second is family support services, and we have the longest serving family resource center in Milwaukee with family drop-in time, parent support groups, family camps, health and developmental screenings, all sorts of activities to support families in communities like where we live. In the River West area, 81% of the babies are born to single moms. Where our Golden Center is, 91% of the babies are born to single moms, mostly very poor, don't have support networks, so that's where our family support services come in. The third area is our after-school youth development programs. And we have two centers, our River West Center, which is 34,000 square feet, and our Burleigh Center is in the most distressed neighborhood in the city of Milwaukee. It's also now the largest youth center in the state. And we serve at those two centers and every day at 6 schools, after-school programs with homework, computers, arts, both performing and visual, sports programming, community service projects, youth leadership projects, etc. So that's the third area. The fourth area is camping, we talked about. And our fifth area is broadly called community services, which includes an adult ed GED program for about 400 former dropouts who get one-on-one tutoring. So last year we operated at 11 locations, and we served about 9,000 children and families. This year we will be at 42 locations and serve about 30,000 children and families. And that's sort of a background on the organization. My own personal background is that I was a prosecutor, and I'm an attorney, and I was a prosecutor for 29 years. I was the chief deputy in the district attorney's office in Milwaukee, responsible for all felony cases in Milwaukee. And then I was appointed by President Clinton.
Thank you, Tom. Tell us a little bit more about the parent work that you've been doing and how you began working with the public schools to be able to promote parent engagement.
Yeah, initially, we were not working with the public schools.
Okay.
In fact, initially, the programs were developed outside of the school system, and the schools became interested in what we were doing. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, please. Tell us a little bit. Why don't you tell us some of the core elements of your parent engagement, your philosophy behind parent engagement?
Yeah, well, parent engagement as it relates to education.
Yes.
The core philosophy would be, number one, the parent is the child's first and most important teacher. Number two, if a parent is involved every day in education and supporting the child's education, no matter where that child goes to school, they're likely to do well. And conversely, if the parent is not involved in supporting education every day, no matter where that child goes to school, they're not likely to do well. And the third underlying principle would be that the earlier you can reach out to parents and develop a habit of everyday involvement, the easier it is to create a habit that sticks. So we began with a program called HIPPY. HIPPY is an international program. It's not about the 60s. It stands for Home Instruction for Parents of Preschool Youngsters. And using the HIPPY curriculum, we sign up families who have a child 3, 4, or 5 years old. And every week, a parent partner goes to the home and meets with the parent, and not the child, but meets with the parent, and gives the parent the book of the week and a day-by-day curriculum that goes with that book, and role plays it with the parent. So it might be Good Night Moon or Buenas Noches Luna, or it's in English or Spanish because half of our families speak Spanish. But and the parent then agrees to spend at least 15 minutes every single day doing that day's curriculum with their child. And that's a 30-week curriculum for 3-year-olds, 30-week for 4-year-olds, 30 weeks for 5-year-olds. So the HIPPY program started out with a partnership actually with COA and La Escuela Fraternity, which is an elementary school in our neighborhood. And then it expanded out from that to just families who heard about it, word of mouth. We started out with 20 families, and over the years it grew to about 150 families in the program. It was funded with private funds from private foundations and corporate foundations.
Tell us a little bit about this project that we saw on the newspaper, the Having Involved Parents.
Yeah, Well, that grew out of the first one, so I wanted to...
Oh, okay.
They work in tandem. One works with the other. So because of what we were getting, we did an evaluation with Marquette University, and Marquette University found that kids who were in the hippie program started kindergarten ahead of any other group coming into the system. Better reading skills, better so because of that success, MPS started providing a little. MPS is Milwaukee Public Schools. They started providing a little bit of funding to help support hippie, and we partnered with about 15 schools, and they would refer. Each school would refer 1 or 2 or 3 families, and then they would be left to us to work with in the home, and once a month at our family gathering nights where all the families come together for a dinner and then a fun educational program. About 5 years ago, we were approached by a private foundation that said, we like hippie, but we don't want to fund it. What we want to know is, can you develop something like this in an elementary school setting? And we partnered with one of our schools where we run the after-school program, the Oliver Wendell Holmes School. And in that context, we developed HIP, which stands for Having Involved Parents. So hippie is for parents with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and HIP, which is based on hippie, is based on elementary school. So preschool, elementary school. In the elementary school, we couldn't do the home visit, so we hired a parent involvement coordinator at each of our schools. Parent involvement coordinator is a parent who's got a child in the school and is already active and involved, has an outgoing personality, doesn't have to have a college degree, doesn't have to have a high school diploma, but what they have to do is be a good role model and be able to talk to other parents, parent to parent. Because the model in hippie is that that model of one parent talking to another parent is a really good method for building trust and having good communication. Better than if I were to talk to them, or the teachers talk to them, or the administrators talk to them. So at the school, the parent involvement coordinator is at the school every day as parents are bringing their kids in, and in the afternoon when they're picking their kids up, talking to them, giving them materials and brochures about, you have to ask your child every day, what did you do in school? Do you have any homework? Come to the parent-teacher conferences, ask what's going on in the school, and give them very specific things and make them feel welcome coming into the school. Because in the schools we're at, a huge percentage of the parents themselves have dropped out of school. The schools are not a comfortable place that they feel like. The only time they come to school is if there's a problem with their child. They had bad memories themselves from school. So now you develop a different, very welcoming parent-to-parent model where parents are invited in every day and talked to every day and start to feel comfortable with the school. But more important, are talking to their children every day about school. Because if the parent doesn't ask about school, it must not be important. That's the message the child gets.
Correct. I know that you also conducted some evaluation of...
one more step, though.
Okay.
We also do the same as in hippie. We do a family gathering night at each school every month, where families are invited in, they have a dinner and then a fun educational program, and that also brings faculty from the school in, so that now you've got the parents and the kids and the teachers mixing in a social environment rather than this is the problem with your son. And then we also have family camps where the parents and kids one weekend each year of the 2nd and 3rd graders go up to camp for a weekend. And there are incentives for participation. There's a Big on Books club for parents and kids, and there are rewards for participating. So that's the basics of the HIP program.
Mm-hmm. And you conducted some research on that as well in collaboration with a university, correct?
Yes, the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee Center for Urban Initiatives and Research worked with us, so that what we began doing is first we got the data of how many parents were participating before we started. So for example, and then we tracked it after we began participating. So for example, at the Oliver Wendell Holmes School, there are 400 kids in the school. The year before we started, only 27 parents came to the parent-teacher conferences. But the next year, over 200 parents came to the parent-teacher conferences and to the open houses and to the family gathering nights. And there were lines of parents who wanted to come to these events. The second thing we did was we began tracking the data for every single parent in the school. Which parent, and most of them, by the way, 90% were single moms. But we tracked every parent and what event they came to and did not come to. And then we tracked every child in the school and what their reading and math achievement scores were. And the interesting thing was that, number one, the university found that there was a huge increase in the number of parents participating. Number two, there was a direct correlation between parents participating and the students' academic achievement. So for example, parents who came to none of the events, 28% of their kids were reading above grade level. But as the number of events they came to increased, the number doing well increased. Up to 8 or more events, 69% of the kids were reading above grade level. And for the school itself, which had been on the standardized testing, it's called the Wisconsin WKC, Wisconsin Knowledge Comprehensive, whatever it is. That's the No Child Left Behind standardized testing. Mm-hmm. The school was one of what's called the schools in need of improvement, meaning one of the bottom schools in the district. It's no longer on that list anymore. Its testing overall is also off the list now.
Wow.
So because of the success of that one school, which we did with private foundation money and no support from MPS. In fact, central administration never got back to the foundation, so that's why they came to us. We did it ourselves with the school. I then went to see the superintendent of the school district, and showed him the evaluation results together with the principal of the school and our program coordinator, and said, so this is the results. You basically have a choice. You can say, this is great, goodbye, or you can say, this is great, let's test this and see if it can be replicated in more schools, or you can say, let's implement this district-wide. And he, of course, chose the middle ground and used the sum of the school's Title I funding to put it into 5 schools. So for 2 years, we replicated and got great results in the 5 schools. And now with the federal economic stimulus dollars, a huge amount of additional Title I money came to the state, which in turn came to the Milwaukee Public School System, which in turn allocated $2 million a year for a total of $4 million over 2 years to us to expand the program into 35 schools.
And that's managed as a subcontract to your organization, correct?
Correct.
Correct. A lot of the organizations that we work with and that are joining us on the call, work with different school districts, and we've talked about how we can partner with the school district to be able to capture some of that stimulus funds and be able to promote parent engagement. What would be some of the recommendations that you would tell a nonprofit wanting to look for that type of partnership? Based on your experience working with Milwaukee.
Yeah, I would tell them first of all to reverse the order of the presentation. By that I mean talk about the passion about parental involvement and how it improves academic achievement, and how therefore it's important for the school to invest its funding into that. Because it took me 5 years to persuade the school system, but the school systems tend to invest money into their own box. And the issues that are inside of their box are teacher pay, class size, and school facilities. And there are huge interest groups that need that money and are fighting for that money, and it's their schools, and so they're investing the money in their schools. But in Milwaukee, for example, they invested $100 million into new school facilities and got no academic outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to show that evaluation by investing $50,000 into one school in a factor that was outside their box, which is parental involvement. It was the single most important factor in affecting the academic outcomes inside their box. And so it was worthwhile to invest a very small amount of money into the family involvement, parental involvement piece, because ultimately it got a huge impact in terms of the academic achievement by the kids in the school. And that was the battle, because when you do that, you're fighting for a limited pie of money. And California, of many states, is in a terrible economic situation. So if you're grabbing money, somebody else is saying, you're taking my piece of the pie. So how do you convince the school system to allocate money when they're saying, well, but we're closing up schools, or we've got to provide teacher pay, or we've got to support our facilities? And that's why the stimulus worked well, because we were able to demonstrate let me go back. There were two things. The evaluation was critical because the data showed it worked. And number two, the stimulus money was critical because it wasn't taking money away from anybody else's pot. It was new money into the system that we were able to then say, this is a good investment because it will get good results inside your box.
All right. And Tom, thank you. I think that all this information, my name is Tom. I think what you've been talking about all along is very important information, and also I kind of realized the fact that you were able to get some attention from the school, and within that 5 years that you've been working on the program, especially the hippie and the hip, I think that one of the crucial or one of the most important components is to have a good running program that will be able to go out to the community instead of bringing the community to the program, but you actually go out with, case management or school, actually a home visitor within your program. And I kind of interest into that, and how do you begin with the program and the number of people who you recruited to go out to the home of the parents and the students and to provide early education and all of that at the home. How do you begin by doing that, and how do you deal with parents, single parents who have multiple children in the home, as well as how many people do you recruited to the program before it actually started and revolving into the HIP and then now into all the schools?
Yeah, well, with Hippie, we started out as a partnership. That is a international program. You work with Hippie USA. And that organization has all the curriculum and all the materials, and everything is set up, and that's easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to raise the money so you can afford a coordinator and then a parent partner. It became easier for us as we went along, because now we have 14 parent partners, and almost every one of them is somebody who was themselves a parent in the program.
Mm-hmm.
They not only did the program as a participant with their child, but they fell in love with the program so much that they took an opportunity to become a parent partner and do home visits themselves.
Oh, okay. So it's really you just fundraising the fund to run the program, and those parent partner are actually volunteering to go out to the...
No, they're paid.
Oh, they're paid, okay.
Yeah, the parents who are in the program as participants are not paid. They're getting the home visits.
Oh, okay.
But the parent partners it's about 30 to 35 hours a week, and they get about $10 an hour,
mm-hmm.
and they get reimbursement for mileage, and they get a cell phone, and they come together every Friday for training.
Mm-hmm.
All the parent partners are in today. next week, and then they'll go out next week and meet with each one has about 25 families, and they'll be meeting one at a time with their families and going over that book and that curriculum for that week and giving all the materials to the families.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then out of that, in the schools, the parent involvement coordinators, we usually find, because we ask the principal for a recommendation of a family in the school of somebody who might be interested in a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 20-hour-a-week job at $13 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Tom, I have a question for you regarding the Milwaukee Public Schools. Do they have a branch or an office that focuses on family and community engagement?
Yes, and
how has been that relationship? Because sometimes when the district has an entity that way, they feel that that's something that entity should be doing, and they wouldn't have the necessity to partner with other organizations outside.
Right, and Milwaukee Public Schools had been using some funds for parent coordinators in many schools, but on the ground, what they were really doing is the schools were using them for other things, not really for parent involvement. Number one. But when we would go into those schools, for the first month there would be a little tension between the school's parent coordinator and ours, but in every school it ended up being a wonderful partnership. Number two, we found that the definition of parent involvement in MPS was very different than our definition of parent involvement. They defined parent involvement as getting parents involved in the governance of the school,
Mm-hmm.
getting them involved in the parent-teacher organizations and participating in the school planning. We define parent involvement as getting the parent involved with their child and supporting education.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were operating in two very different wavelengths. But ultimately what happened with the success of our program, and this was both bad news and good news for us, is as this program got successful this fall, they hired the director of our program to be the coordinator of parent involvement programming at Milwaukee Public Schools.
Oh, I see.
So I lost my star director. But the good news is, now I have somebody at MPS who's a huge champion
Right.
for these programs.
All right. I wanted to open it up for other questions. Please feel free to ask Tom any questions about the programs or about his partnership with the school or with the public schools.
I have a question when it comes to the evaluation. Oftentimes, how did you get the one school, the first school where you did the CP and then later on the HIP evaluation to get the data from the school? Did you have an agreement with the principal? Because oftentimes right here in LA when we've tried to do that, and there's like...
Confidentiality.
Yeah.
That's what you'll hear from the school. Oh, we can't give you that information.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's easier for us now than it was in the beginning. Now because UWM, the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, already has a research arrangement with Milwaukee Public Schools for many reasons. They don't have problem with that information. But the way we did it initially is the school social worker at the school gathered all of the data and created it's a huge chart. And so I don't know the names of anybody on that list. So for example, you got 400 parents. You have parent 1A. That means the first student, and A is mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have parent 2A, the first student, and the parent is mom. And then you have 3A and 3B. That's the third student, the parent is a mom and a dad. And then you have all those. And then after that, you list all of the events and which events they attended or didn't attend to. So I don't know if that's Mary Smith or Joe Jones, but the school social worker enters all that data.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the children, you have child 1A1. That's the first child of family 1. And what their attendance was, what their reading score was, what their math score was, and what grade they're actually in.
So you got the data from the parents and from the school?
From the school social worker, who we paid extra to gather that data for about 2 months in the summer, every summer. And then she provides the data to UWM, and they've now developed a computer program that will analyze all that data and find correlations, and what correlations there are or are not.
About how much?
And then they followed up also by sending out a survey to all the parents in the school. So we also surveyed the parents, and for example, 76% of the parents said that the HIP program did help them to get to know teachers better. 75% said it helped them to know better how to do homework with their kids. 75, so that was important information to have from the parent side.
Thank you. And about how much did it cost, do you know?
I think again, that was paid directly by the foundation that was funding this.
Okay.
We were getting $50,000 for the school per year, and I think they were paying approximately another, I think it was around $15,000 to $20,000 for the evaluation each year. Now, this year, because all the computer work has been set up, I think the cost from UWM for the one school is about $8,000. But then we paid the gathering of the data was probably another $5,000 or $6,000. In the grant that we have from Milwaukee Public Schools, we've set aside $50,000 per year for evaluation.
Good.
And I'll be looking for some additional private foundation funding to put more into evaluation. Because if we don't have a great evaluation, then the program deserves to die. And if we do have a great evaluation, it's the only thing that will convince them to continue funding it after the stimulus is gone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Tom, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. I have received copies of the research, and both the executive summary and the extended summary. Would it be fine to be able to share that with those individuals that would be interested in reading either the executive summary or the extended document?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So please email me if you would be interested in receiving the research, and I can send it to you.
I am. I'll go ahead and email you.
Okay, great.
I mean, the research is important because if you're going in to talk to your school superintendent, you want to have data to back up your argument that this. I mean, and there's also research that comes through Harvard. I forget what the Harvard has a whole family on program on parental involvement and research that they've done nationally to document the importance of parental involvement on academic achievement.
That's Karen Mapp, correct? And Ann Henderson, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had them conduct a workshop. We invited them to LA to conduct a workshop about their work, and they have a new book, I believe is Beyond the Bake Sale, that talks about parent engagement.
Yeah, there was a nice editorial in the Milwaukee Journal yesterday about this. The lead editorial was called A Call to Parents, and the subheadline was, Parental involvement is one way to close the achievement gap. A child's educational experience occurs in school and at home.
Great. So Tom, thank you so much for your time again. What we're going to do is that we're going to edit and make sure this conversation, the recording, and make it available to those that were not able to attend the call. And obviously, we're going to be sharing any of the information you send me with the rest of the people attending the call. We really appreciate for your time, and we look forward to collaborating in the future.
Right. One thing I do want to say to everybody on your call is I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you so much for what you're doing in your community. Best of luck to each of you.